But one of the things I find so fascinating is that within the world of animation, as you all do it, really anything is possible. But then I'm curious, then the challenge become you all think of something that you want to do, and then you realize, oh, we have to do that. We have to build that thing. We have to shoot it so it looks realistic. Like, do you in fact run up against a point where like your imagination can't, like your hands quite can't match what it is that you're imagining?
Well, I mean, let's be honest, working in stop motion is awful. It's the worst. It's such a stupid way to make a movie. It's ridiculous. I mean, you're literally you're playing around with this doll that's maybe 9 inches tall, trying to coax a performance out of it. You're, sweating under hot set lights. You're inhaling noxious fumes from rubber cement and hot glue. It's just awful. But it does have an extraordinary charm. I think anytime you see something that's been brought to life by an artist's hands, it just has a different kind of a quality. But there are absolutely things that stop motion does not do well. There are things, there are definite, strict limitations to what you can do within the medium. And so but we don't want that to limit the kinds of stories that we can tell. So we have to try to find ways to bash through it. Sometimes things that you wouldn't expect to be difficult are extraordinarily difficult, virtually impossible. And one of those things came up as we were working on the story, where we wanted to take our character Eggs, who has virtually no contact with human society, who's been raised underground in squalor, and put him in a really uncomfortable position. And from our perspective, the worst possible thing you can put a kid like that in is a aristocratic dance party. And so we thought, what if he was in this big ballroom sequence with all these aristocrats trying to fit in? And it was a great story idea. Maybe we wouldn't think it would be difficult to do, but it was virtually impossible. It took us 18 months to shoot that sequence.
And now for people who aren't animators, I think it's maybe hard for us to understand what is the challenge. Like, what is the thing that you realized, like, what were we thinking?
Every department on that sequence, because we had a great sequence. It was called Tea and Cheese, and it was a tea party. So it was just Egg sitting at the table with Winnie and her parents. And it was hilarious. And Toni Collette did this great performance as the nervous mother meeting this strange little boy. But it wasn't enough of a public humiliation for Egg. So in the story department, we don't worry about whether we can do it or not. Travis doesn't make us stop. We said, a dance party, a waltz. Just that alone took, Emanuela Cuzzi, one of our best storyboard artists, had to storyboard a waltz, which is a lot of drawing and a lot of research to figure it out. Then our composer, Dario Marinelli, had to write a waltz that not only is a waltz all the way through that sequence, but it's also become score underneath Snatcher stalking Eggs and the little romantic moment. So he kept the waltz going at the same time as scoring the story beats. Then we had 2 choreographers from the Portland Ballet come in and reproduce the whole sequence inside our studio so we could film it. Mark Stewart, our cameraman, could film it from every angle as reference. And then we had we have these breakdown meetings where we take the sequence when it's storyboarded and we have a breakdown meeting. And that was the worst breakdown meeting I've ever been to.
Yeah, because usually the breakdown meetings, all the heads of department are there, and it's a pretty energized session. Everybody's sort of jumping over each other to say, how to divvy up the workload shot by shot. And every time you walk into those meetings, there's a lot of energy in the room. Everybody's busily talking and going through the packets and figuring out how they're going to all deal with the stuff in the sequence. But we walked into the room for the dance sequence breakdown, and it was dead silent. No one was talking. Everyone was just like quietly leafing through the packets and looking at each other nervously. And then we're like, oh wow, I think we finally overstepped.
We didn't know enough. We didn't know enough to know what we'd done. Travis knew. He was asking, so you guys, you see the dance sequence yet? To the heads of department. We were obliviously figured, well, the mecha drill attacking the town at the end, that'll be the hardest sequence. No. That one they could handle fine. It was the dance sequence that gave everybody pause. And they had to redesign puppets so that beneath the skirts there was coils, kind of like a slinky, so you could get the up and down motion on that. And then it was just the integration to the practical puppets dancing was hard enough, with the animator needing access to this dance floor in the midst of these dancers, and then integrating the background CG puppets who are dancing in between some of the real puppets. It's just a real logistical nightmare.